L is for the way you here and now. Our heart will go on. It's your love. It just does something to me when I see you smile. Sunny day and everybody loves it. Tell me, baby, can you stand the rain? Can you stand the rain? Storm shall come, and this I know for sure. Can you stand the rain? Oh, can you stand the rain?
Well, let's give him a round of applause. Great job, Danny. He was getting into it, wasn't he? I thought he was about to moonwalk or something across the platform. How many of you guys know that song already? It's a less known song, okay? All right, who was the artist? Shout it out if you know it, either campus. What is that? New Edition. I'm so proud of you guys. If you don't know New Edition was like Boys II Men before Boys II Men was Boys II Men. And a great band, great R&B artist. Before we get into the series, we're in a love song series, so you're in church, you're in the right place. You might be wondering, what was that? If this is your first time, but we're in a series about love and relationships, and we'll get into that in just a minute, but I want to look into the camera and welcome in our family over at the South Campus and everybody watching online. Come on, let's give them a round of applause. We love you so much. We're so grateful to have you with us. We are one church in two locations, but we're so grateful to have you with us this morning. I want to remind you of one other thing as well. Today is step 3 of our Next Steps classes, and today is an exciting one. It happens at 11:15 at both campuses, but it's all about your spiritual ID, how God made you, how God wired you, your gifts, your personality, your abilities. And listen, you were created on purpose. The way that God made you was for a reason, because you have a purpose on this earth. And the way he made you is to fulfill that. And so we want to help you discover that. And so that's today. Take advantage of that at 11:15 at both campuses. But we are in a series called Love Songs. This is week 3. And in week 1, we talked, the song was actually Chicago, You're the Inspiration. Great song, great band. But we talked about how your spouse is not supposed to be the meaning in your life. That God is supposed to be the meaning in your life. And there is a very important priority to our relationships, that God must be first priority and your spouse must be second. And if you get those out of order, then it'll cause damage to your relationship. If you put your spouse above God, that's not healthy. If you put your kids above your spouse or anything else on this earth above your spouse, that's also not healthy, and that will also cause damage to your relationship. And if you're single, we talked about not looking for the one, but seeking the one. Seeking God is your first priority, and allowing him to change you, becoming the right one instead of finding the right one. And that was in week 1. And then last week, the song was Brian McKnight, Back at One, a great song. But it was all about when you lose that loving feeling, if you will, if you feel like that fire's gone, you got to go back and do the first things you did at the beginning. If you want to get what you once had, you have to do what you once did. And it was all about pursuing. And there's a great scripture in Revelation we talked about that gives us the steps to do that. Remember the fire, repent, and do the first works. And so I'm catching you up a little bit on that in case you've missed one of the last few weeks. I want to encourage you to go back and give those a listen so you can be caught up on this. And I know we're in a series on relationship and marriage, but I want you to know this can apply across the board. If you're single, it still applies to you. If you're married, it applies to you, obviously. If you're in a blended relationship or blended family, it applies to you. These principles will apply to almost every area of your life. So I want to encourage you not to tune out. And then today, there's one thing I also felt like I was supposed to remind you of, or just to share with you, is sometimes in a relationship series like this, if you have had past failed relationships or past failed marriages, the enemy would love nothing more than to come to you during this time and to drag that back up and to remind you of your past failures and cause you to try to see your current relationships or future relationships through the filter of your past mistakes. And God is not about your past, okay? I want to remind you of that because he's a God of new beginnings. His mercies are new every morning, and it matters what you do from this day going forward. So don't look to the past, because that's what the enemy wants you to do. Just look ahead to what God has for you in the future. And so I want to encourage you as you hear these things not to dredge up the past, because the enemy does that. God's not doing that in your life, okay? So focus on the future. And then also a little ground rule for today, listen for yourself. Don't listen for somebody else, okay? It's very tempting to do that. So if you're with your spouse, no nudging, right? No looking at them like, he's talking to you. Don't do that because I'm talking to everybody. So listen for yourself today. And the reason that I chose that song, Can You Stand the Rain, by New Edition, is because I like the words and the principle here. The song, if you couldn't understand the words, it said, sunny days, everybody has them, but tell me, can you stand the rain? Storms will come, this we know for sure, but can you stand the rain? And the reality is in every relationship, there are going to be sunny days, but there are also going to be stormy days, okay? The storms of marriage and the storms of life will come, and can you stay and stand through those storms of life? And that is what I want to talk to you about today. And I want to encourage you with this scripture in 1 Corinthians 7:28. It says, but those who marry will face many troubles in this life. I hope that's encouraging to you this morning. The reason that I share that with you is because so many people are surprised when they get into marriage or they get into a relationship and the storms of life come and they're like, what's wrong? It's supposed to be perfect. There's never supposed to be any problems. I can't tell you how many people come to me after they've been married and they're complaining about the things that they're going through. They're like, oh, well, they always do this and they always do that. And they don't realize that the same things they're going through, everybody goes through. And it's a trap of the enemy to make you think that your situation's unique, that nobody fights like you, that nobody has disagreements like you, so that you'll think that that person is the wrong person. But that's just not reality. Everybody goes through the same things. And what we can be tempted to do is to look at good relationships or great marriages, and we can begin to think, well, their marriage is great because they don't have any problems. And that's just not true. That's just a lie. Great marriages and good relationships are not free of problems. They're just the ones that work through them in a healthy manner. In fact, the best marriages are the ones who are committed to whatever work it takes to make it work. In fact, Clayton and Ashley, I don't know if you guys remember them. They are the marriage and family pastors at Lakewood Church. They were here with us in August, and they used to be the children's pastors here, great friends of our church, and they have family in our church here with us. But they wrote a book called Hope for Your Marriage. And in that book, it said that their marriage changed when God asked them the question, are you willing to do whatever it takes to make your marriage work? And all of us are faced with that same question. Are you willing to do whatever it takes? And sadly, too many times our answer is more like that of Meatloaf. Do you guys remember the artist Meatloaf? Rock ballad artist that wrote like 14-hour songs. You remember him? Okay, what did he say? I would do anything for love, but what? Oh, some people sang it here. That was great. But I won't do that, right? He keeps saying that over and over, and you never know what that is. He never actually tells you what it is he won't do. He's like, but I won't do that. And I think he did that on purpose. That way he could just say, baby, I would do that, but I won't do that. I would do anything, but I won't do that. And he can just plug it in. But I want to tell you that if you approach your relationship like that, it's not going to work. If you approach your marriage or your relationship like that and say, well, I just won't do that unless it's ungodly. Most people are like, well, I won't change. I won't do that. And then if you're approaching it like that, it's not going to work. You're not going to have success in your marriage. It takes two people who say, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll work through it. I'll stand the rain. I'll stay through the storm. So what storms do marriages bring? As I thought about this, there's many that can come up in a marriage that bring disagreement. One of them, the big one, is money. Money's a big one. People argue and disagree about money, about kids, right? About intimacy issues, possibly unrealistic expectations, in-laws, right? Is this sounding familiar to anybody? Somebody said, woo. I hope they're not here with you today. Maybe miscommunication or a lack of communication. In fact, I think that's one of the biggest ones. I love this quote by George Bernard Shaw. He says, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Because you can think that you've communicated really well and walk away and nothing has happened. Or what I think actually many times happens is it's the way we communicate about those other issues that causes more friction, that causes more problems. And listen, the enemy's plan in your marriage and in any healthy relationship is to divide and conquer. He wants to divide you so that he can conquer and win in that relationship. But God's plan is always to unite and conquer. Where the enemy wants to divide, God tries to bring together. In fact, in Matthew chapter 19, when the Pharisees asked Jesus, they said, is it okay for a man to divorce his wife? Jesus responds with a passage that I've already read to you over the last 2 weeks out of Genesis and then also out of Ephesians. And in Matthew chapter 19, verse 5, he says, therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. There's no greater picture of intimacy or unity on this earth than the two becoming one. He goes on to say, so they are no longer two, but one flesh. You can see God's picture of unity that he wants in a marriage here, of the unity of one person, two becoming one. What therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. This is God's plan for marriage. God instituted marriage. He came up with this plan to show his unity on this earth. Remember, marriage is a picture of our relationship with God. It's two becoming one. He now rules our life. And then when you marry, you become one person. But the enemy's plan is to get in there and to cause you to fight and to cause you to disagree, to where you begin to think that your spouse is the enemy. And your spouse is not the enemy. That is one of the big plans of the enemy, is to get you to turn your attention off of him and put it on the person that God put you with. Now, there's a song called Battlefield by Jordan Sparks. I don't know if you've ever heard this song. I don't consider it a love song because it says, she says, why does love always feel like a battlefield? And sadly, that is how the world approaches relationships many times. It's like we're going to fight, we're going to get into it, and I'm going to win. And you need to realize that you're not in a competition with your spouse. You're not in a battle with your spouse. You're in a fight, but alongside them for your marriage, not against each other. And it's important that you realize that, or you're going to be aiming at the wrong person during the war. And I just want you to know, if you don't know this already, and this is what we're talking about today, but you will disagree in your marriage. People who are married, they already know this, right? You're going to disagree. You may fight. You may argue. But how do you handle that? What do you do when that comes up to get to a healthy resolve? That is what we're after here. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to start by talking to you about the 3 seasons of marriage, okay? There's 3 seasons of marriage. All of these notes will also be online later. I have a lot of things today, so try to write them down if you can, but if not, they'll be online later. So 3 seasons of marriage. The first season is the honeymoon season, okay? This is the very beginning. Some people call this the sweet month, if you will, because it's like a month or 2 months. This is a blissful time, right, where your spouse can do no wrong, that they're perfect. Every day you wake up and there's rainbows and butterflies and birds chirping, right? And when you get out of bed, the birds make your bed like they did in Cinderella. It's just a blissful time. In fact, our worship leader, Danny, who sang this morning, he's about to enter into this season as he's getting married soon. But then comes the next season, and this is called disillusionment. Disillusionment, right? This is when those things like you thought were perfect in your spouse are no longer perfect. You're like, wait a second. Who is this monster that I have married? Who is this person, right? Remember, I talked about how sometimes the things that attract you to that person before marriage become the things that sometimes you despise later, right? And so you wake up one day and all the things that you didn't see before, they're there. And you're like, who is this person that puts the toilet paper on backwards, right? It goes on the front side so you can pull from the front, all right? Who's this monster that squeezes from the middle of the toothpaste? What kind of Neanderthal is that, right? And you're like, who are you? Why do you leave your clothes out? Why don't you do the dishes, right? And then all of the things that you didn't see before become really clear. In fact, it was in this season that Tandra and I had one of our first big arguments. And it's always over something pretty silly. And we were arguing over cleaning and actually how you clean. It was, do you spray the spray on the rag or on the furniture, okay? Does that really matter? No. But we had an argument about it, and it blew up. And it's so silly, but I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'll tell you several things, honestly, today. But I thought about during this season, there's a song, since we're in love songs, by Casey and JoJo called All My Life. Do you guys remember this song? Great song. And the song said, all my life I've prayed for someone like you, and I thank God that I finally found you. And then in this season, you're like, wait, Lord, I was praying all my life for this person, but now, who are they? Why didn't you warn me ahead of time, right? In fact, in that song, I don't know if you guys know this song, but in high school, I even thought this was weird. There's a part in that song where he says, you're close to me, you're like my mother. Close to me, you're like my father. Close to me, you're like my sister. Close to me, you're like my brother. I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I'm not trying to marry somebody that is a combination of my family. I don't want to marry somebody like my brother, right? That's just weird. But in truth, our families do shape the way we handle conflict. In fact, early on in our marriage, Tandra's family, they didn't talk a lot about conflict. There was never really open disagreement. In my family, we had open disagreement. And so early on, we would have this open disagreement, and Tandra would be like, we're in trouble. Like, our marriage is in trouble. We're going to be, we're going to fail. And I'm like, babe, it's okay. We're just talking about cleaning. It's not, our marriage is fine. And I would have to remind her in the scope of everything. This was very small. But she never saw or was a part of open disagreement or discussion. And it's in this season of disillusionment that 70% of marriages get stuck. Because they don't actually resolve conflict. They just manage it. Or even worse, they just ignore it. And they never actually deal with the conflict that they have in their marriage, and they never work to a healthy resolution. The best marriages come to the next season, and that's called commitment. The third season is the season of commitment, which means, yes, we do have problems, yes, we fight, but we have skills and we have tools in place now to work through them, and we're committed, if you will, to stick through the rain. We're going to stay here no matter what. Healthy conflict leads to healthy relationships. A great marriage is not one that's free of conflict. Remember, it's one that has conflict but just works through it right. So if you're going to disagree and if you're going to fight in your marriage at times, we need to put rules in place ahead of time so that when it comes up, when something happens, you've already laid the ground rules. You already have things in place so you know how to handle it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. And listen, many of these are for marriage, but they will work in almost any relationship. This is just good conflict resolution, a lot of these things. So the first thing is this: create boundaries, okay? I'm going to be very practical today with you because I want to help your marriage when this happens, because it's going to happen, okay? Create boundaries. Boundaries are meant to protect. They can help de-escalate a situation quickly. If you already have the rules in place, when something comes up, you already know what you can do. You need to do this ahead of time. It's not good to try to do this in the middle, okay? Because you can't come up with the rules in the middle of the fight. Wait. No. Let's talk about, no. Get the boundaries in place ahead of time. Okay, I'm going to list through some, but I'm going to recommend that you talk to your spouse about this. But I think that these are great ones that would be good for you. The first one is this: never in public. Just say, we're never going to fight in public. We're not going to do it in the parking lot. We're not going to do it in the grocery store, or the mall. Right? We're going to go privately, and we're going to deal with this together and work to a healthy resolution. So choose to say never in public. The next one is this: never in front of kids. Now, I know some people that will say, well, we want our kids to know we have disagreements. Well, I do too. We tell our kids, yeah, your mother and I have disagreements, but we work through them. But we don't want to do it in front of them. It can be damaging to them. It can create this instability in them to think mom and dad don't like each other, and that's just not true. So if you start one in front of them, you need to apologize in front of them. Apologize to each other in front of them so they see the unity there, and apologize to them for disagreeing in front of them. But you need to have these rules in place ahead of time so that when this happens, you can say, hold on, we need to go somewhere else and handle this. We need to talk about this in private. So never in public, never in front of kids. I like this one, never in bed. Your bed should be a place of intimacy and unity between you and your spouse. So don't bring arguments and fights into it. Keep that holy. Keep that as something that is just for you and your spouse. Also, when you get in bed, you get really tired. And when you get really tired, you get more emotional. And then you don't respond well when you're tired, right? If we're being honest. So don't bring it into the bed. Say that this is off limits place for us to disagree, okay? You need to set these up ahead of time. This one seems obvious, but we need to address it. It's never physical. We're not going to push each other. We're not going to hit each other. We're not going to do any of those things. We're not going to be physical in this disagreement. That should be obvious, but we need to set those things in place so that when this moment arises, arguments and fights can come out of nowhere. They can just spark up quick. And so you've got to have these ground rules in place that you've agreed upon ahead of time. And this is one of them. Never yell. Don't raise your voice to try to get louder than the other person, because then you start getting angry, and that comes out, and it's very much a pointed attack at that point. And we want to make that commitment to never yell. And then on the other side of that, never shut down. Typically, there is a yeller and a shut down person in each relationship. And the one that yells is shutting the other one down. And when you shut down, you go internal, and you're like, I'm just not going to talk about this. And you walk away, and you don't deal with it. And you close up. And that ends up bottling up. Now, if there's two yellers in a relationship, that will end in an explosion and just massive fireworks. That's not healthy. And if there's two shut down people in a relationship, you can think things are okay because you just keep shutting down. But inside, things are just building and building and building. And then out of the blue, one day, you're just done. So don't shut down. You have to put these things in place ahead of time. Say, hey, listen, we already agreed you're not going to shut down, right? So let's talk. Let's not shut down. Let's both of us agree to this. And you can do it in a calm manner. So don't yell and don't shut down. So you need to set some of these boundaries in place ahead of time. And then the next one is this: set a time limit. Set a time limit. If you're going to disagree and you're going to argue and you're going to fight at times, you need to set a time limit. And I think you shouldn't allow this to drag out. Now, the scripture is actually clear on this. We know that you don't want to go to bed still in an argument. In Ephesians chapter 4, verses 26 and 27, it says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and give no opportunity to the devil." When you go to bed angry at your spouse, you're giving opportunity for the devil to counsel you. I love the way that Jimmy Evans says it. He says, you let the devil counsel you when you go to sleep angry at your spouse, because he will be in your ear. And he will be speaking to you and interpreting to you your spouse's intentions. He will be interpreting to you what their motives were, what they said. He'll be twisting those words. And the longer you allow this to go, the more you will stew on it, and the more things that will get forgotten or added that didn't actually happen. And so when you go to sleep angry at your spouse, like if they're in the bed next to you, if they're on the couch, wherever they are, and you're just angry and you're stewing and you have not resolved that issue, the enemy will speak to you and say, hey, you wouldn't have all this conflict if you didn't have them. And he starts planting seeds in your head of doubt in your marriage and doubt in your relationship, and that is dangerous. So don't allow yourself to be counseled by the devil. Don't go to sleep angry. People typically, the longer they wait, don't assume the best, they assume the worst. And so to get the best out, you need to deal with it in a quick manner. I understand some people need a little time to cool down, but that should not take all day or overnight. You should never go to bed angry at your spouse. And this is good in any relationship, guys. Don't go to bed angry at anybody. Try to deal with it while it's still called today, the scripture says. So try to resolve those conflicts. And so you want to set a time limit and make that a rule in your relationship. We're not going to go to bed angry at each other. We're just not going to do it. I don't care how long it takes. We're going to work it out. Your relationship is too important to allow yourself to be counseled by the devil, okay? And then control your words. Now, this may be one of the hardest, but one of the most powerful things. Your words have incredible power. We talked about this last week, that life and death are in the power of the tongue. And there's so many scriptures that talk about building up versus tearing down with your words. But we need to decide what words we cannot say and what we cannot do with our words. And we have to become accountable for our words. In fact, Jesus in Matthew chapter 12 and verse 36 says, "I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." And some of you might be like, man, that's really strong language. Pastor, why are you telling us this today? I didn't say it, first of all. Jesus said it. But the truth is, when you get into an argument or disagreement, you can get really careless with your words very quickly. And you're going to have to give an account for that one day. And I think it's going to be even stronger for your spouse, like for words you said to your spouse, because this is the unity that God gave us on this earth, this picture of unity for what you're one now. So there's a powerful principle in controlling your words. It's the words that we speak that do the most damage in relationships. So you need to set these things in place. First one is this: don't name call. Don't demean with your words. When you get into an argument, don't say things like, you're so stupid, right? You're so dumb, or whatever. Right? When we use those words, we're actually firing missiles at our spouse. And we're doing damage to them. It's called friendly fire in war. You're hurting the person that you're supposed to be on the same team with. And when you demean with your words and you name call, you move it out of being about the issue to being about the person. And now it becomes a personal attack. And it's no longer about what you were really trying to work through. Now it's about the person. And so you have to make a commitment ahead of time that we're just not going to do this. We're not going to name call. The next one is don't bring up the past. Make it about what you're dealing with right now. Remember we talked earlier about how it's the enemy that brings up our past? Don't be involved in that. Don't go to the past and bring up things from 10 years ago that happened. You know, I'm not very good at this because I just don't have that great of a memory. But I know, and I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I think women have a better memory than men. Because they can be like, remember 10 years ago? And you're like, no, I don't. I don't honestly remember that. I'm very sorry. for that happening. But don't bring up the past. Make it about the issue today. Deal with it today. And don't go to the past like the enemy. I would also say avoid the use of the words always and never. This is very dangerous in a relationship. You always do this, or you never do this. And when you say that, when you're saying that about the other person, what you're doing is building a case in your mind that they're never going to change, that they're always the same. And it builds a frustration in you. And for them, you know it's not true. There's rarely an always and a never actually true. So the other person is saying, this person, they believe in me, and they don't ever think I can change, and they're always going to be saying this about me. And so we want to avoid the use of the words always and never. And then finally, in controlling your words, one of the most powerful and hardest things sometimes to do is don't use the word divorce. Do not use that word in your vocabulary. It's a cuss word in our house. We say the D word. We're not going to say that word, right? Why? Because it creates an instability in your relationship. And I've heard people say, well, I was just threatening with it. I really didn't mean it. I just want them to know how serious I am. But as soon as you say that word, it tells the other person that you're not all the way in, that you've got one foot out the door. And it creates this instability and this fracture in your relationship. It cannot be a word you use. So you have to say, you know what, we're going to agree. We're never going to use this word. That word is off limits in our disagreements. And just set that up ahead of time. I'm trying to help you because it's going to come one day, a time, if you haven't already had a time where you had friction in your marriage or your relationship, it's coming. So we just need to say, we're not going to use that word. This is so important, guys, to set these boundaries in place. Because once you have these boundaries, you're saying, within the confines of these walls we're putting up, we can disagree safely. And we can work to a great resolution. Remember, the boundaries are meant to protect you. They're not meant to harm you. Without boundaries, more destructive things can happen than productive. And if you don't set these boundaries up, more damaging things can happen in your relationship. And you won't actually resolve conflict. You won't get to the place you want to get to, which is a place of unity again, where you can move forward with your relationship. You'll do more damage to the other person and to your relationship. So set these boundaries in place. Now, in every relationship, in every disagreement, you have two choices. Everybody is always faced with two choices, and that is to have pride or to have humility. You can't have both in a relationship and in a disagreement. So you're always going to be faced with those two choices. Now, humility in the middle of a disagreement is one of the hardest things to have. But it is one of the most fruitful things that you can have in the middle of a relationship. A humble person is one that is quick to admit that they could be wrong. And that's really hard. And a humble person is the first person to apologize. And a prideful person is the one that says, I'm not going to be first. I'm waiting on them to apologize. Now, I've been that person, okay? And I sometimes can still be that person. But a prideful person says, I'm not going to apologize first, because what it does is it admits I'm wrong. It admits that I'm losing. And you're not in it to win or lose against your spouse. You're not keeping score. You're on a team. You're unified. The goal is healthy, resolved conflict to make a stronger relationship. And so you have to choose to be humble. I always tell Tandra in the middle of our disagreements, it doesn't matter who is right, it matters what is right now. It's not about who is right. And normally, she's the first to apologize. Okay, she is great at that. But we have to remind each other sometimes it's not about being right, it's about what is right. And normally, you can make it right or you can be right, but you can't have both. You can choose to try to make it right by being humble and saying, hey, I don't care about being right. I care about what is right. And what is right is that our relationship gets restored, that we move past this in a healthy manner. So you have to choose to be humble. Now, I'm going to give you 5 things as I close, 5 things to choose in humility during your disagreements. And really, ahead of time, this is a great choice to make all the time. First, you have to choose to listen. Everybody has a choice to listen in the middle of a disagreement or in your relationship. Turn the TV off, put the phone down, get off of social media. You know, we can act like we're listening. Oh, I'm just checking on. No, get it all out, get the distractions out of the way and choose to really listen to that person. I love this scripture in James 1:19. It says, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. The way to be slow to anger is to be slow to speak. And the way to be slow to speak is to be quick to hear or quick to listen. Listen to the heart of the person. Many times in listening, you can determine what the root really is, what actually is going on. But you can't do that if you're not really listening. listening. Intentionally listen to their heart. Now, I have been guilty of this many times in my relationship, is that I'm listening only to come back. I'm listening to build a case against the person, using their own words. And I wanted to be a lawyer growing up, so I'm really good at this. In fact, Tandra would always tell me she didn't want to disagree with me because she knew that she would lose. She felt like she couldn't win. And I could turn her words in a minute and be like, yep, and this is why you're losing. And it's wrong. It's wrong, okay? I'm not telling you this because I'm proud of it. I'm embarrassed of it, but I was really good about this. And so when I choose to listen, I have to say, I'm not listening to build a case. I'm listening to hear her heart. I'm listening to know where she's really coming from. And that leads to the second choice you make is choose to understand. Choose to understand their heart, where they're coming from. I heard someone say this once. I don't know who said it, but they said, understanding happens when judgment is withheld. When you don't prejudge what the person means or what they're trying to do, you can really listen. You can't really understand the person's heart if you're already judging their motives. But we're seeking to understand. The goal is to find understanding in this disagreement. And you can do that by asking non-threatening questions. And the best one, and this is in any conflict resolution, they'll teach you this. You need to ask the question, help me understand. And not in a sarcastic way. Not like, now help me understand, that's not good, okay? Help me understand what I said that made you feel this way. Help me understand how this started. And really mean it, really seek to understand where the other person is coming from. That's how you get to healthy resolve in your relationship. And then choose to be patient. Now, this one is also very hard for me. Choose to be patient, okay? I want to be done with it. I don't want to disagree for a long time. I want to be done with it, and I want to move on. Have you ever heard it said that men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti? Men are like waffles because we're compartmentalized. We can just move on, right? Little compartments everywhere. Women are like spaghetti. They want to swim in it for a while. There's noodles going around everywhere, right? And like an hour later, we can still be talking about the same thing we were talking about an hour ago. And I'm like, why aren't we done yet? But I have to choose to be patient to let her process what's going on. Now, this might be the opposite for you in your relationship. That's why you're listening for you, not for someone else. But you have to choose to be patient and say, listen, as long as it takes, I'm going to keep talking to you so that we can get to a healthy resolve. I'm just ready to be done many times, but I've had to learn to be patient while she's swimming through those processing those emotions and those feelings. And that leads me to the next one. Choose to validate. Choose to validate what? Choose to validate their feelings. Feelings may not always be rooted in truth, but they are real. And many times I would want to invalidate her feelings. The more emotional she would get, the more invalid I would think her argument was. It's like, well, it's not really valid. You're just emotional. And let me tell you, don't say those things, okay, men? That's a really bad thing to say, first of all. But you have to choose to validate their feelings. This is real. You are really hurt, and I need to validate that. Now, the way Tandra likes to be validated is she likes to be touched or hugged in the middle of when she's in emotional pain. Now, this is very hard for me because there's a crazy scale of when to hug her, not to hug her. In fact, I have a chart here that I have to reference. And men, you might want to do this. If she's angry, don't touch, don't hug. No touchy. If she's physically hurt, she does not want to be touched. If she stubs her toe, hurts herself, just leave her alone. She don't want to be. But emotional hurt, yeah, you need to hug, you need to touch, right? So I have to pull this out every once in a while and be like, okay, which one? Now let me tell you what not to do. Don't hold this next to their face. Be like, which one are you? It will always be this one, I'll just tell you. And then you don't touch, okay? These are for sale in the lobby. No, I'm just kidding. I don't actually have this chart at home, but I always joked about this. I was like, yeah, I got a chart in the closet I got to go reference. So I thought I'd actually bring one to fruition. But choose to validate, okay? Their feelings are real. They are really hurt. They may not be founded in truth, and that's what you're working towards is to get to the truth. But that doesn't mean that the feelings aren't real. So you've got to choose to validate the feelings. And then the last choice you make, and this one is probably the most important one, is choose to forgive. In every disagreement, in every relationship, you've got to choose to forgive often, a lot, because we're human beings, right? The Bible has actually said, Jesus said that you forgive as many times as they ask, essentially. However many times do people need forgiven? As many times as they need to be forgiven. There's no limit on that. You have to choose to forgive. We know the Bible talks about how that God won't forgive you if you don't forgive other people. But I love this scripture in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31 and 32. It says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. It sounds like a disagreement here. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God, through Christ, has forgiven you. We have to remember, we've been forgiven of so much. And if you want a healthy relationship, you have to choose. It's a choice you make, not based on your feelings. Even if you don't feel like forgiving, you have to choose to forgive. And at the end of every disagreement, it needs to end in two people forgiving each other and moving forward. And I want to encourage you, don't say, Tandra, I've been working through this. Don't say it's okay. Because it may not be okay, but you need to actually say, I forgive you. And there's power in actually saying those words, I forgive you. When you forgive your spouse, you're releasing them of any debt. You're saying, you don't owe me anything. I'm not holding anything above your head anymore. And I'm releasing it in this moment. And so those words are very powerful to say in any relationship, but especially in your marriage. And we have a choice to make every time to say, I choose to forgive. And I'm happy to say next month, Tandra and I'll be married for 13 years. And I know it's not that long, but we're very excited about that. But I'm happy to say that we are in the best years of our marriage. And it's not because either one of us are perfect, because we're far from it. We have lots of flaws. You can ask either one of us and we'll probably tell you. Okay? And it's not because either one of us became what the other person wanted us to become. But it's because we've put these things into play. Because we always seek a healthy resolve when we have a conflict. And it's honestly, a big part of it is because we quit allowing the little things to become big things. We quit making mountains out of molehills in our marriage. And I remember I have a friend whose wife became terminally ill. And it was when she became terminally ill that their marriage got really strong, that it was strengthened. Why? Why is that? It's because when you're faced with the reality that you may not have that person a whole lot longer, the little things, they just don't matter anymore. You choose to forgive quickly and to forgive often. You work to have healthy resolve because you know what? That person's more important than being right. It's not about being right. And I hate that it has to come to that for some people. And I'm going to encourage you, don't allow it. Don't make it come to a situation like that before you move to restoration with your spouse. And you put these things into place. Don't allow the big things or the little things to become really big things. And since we're talking about love songs, it reminded me of a song by Boys to Men. It's called Water Runs Dry. And in that song, it's talking about not waiting until the water of your relationship runs dry to try to work things out. You'll let your whole life pass you by and miss out on a very great thing in your life because you wouldn't work them out quickly and work them out right. So I want to encourage you. Don't wait until the water in your relationship comes to a place where there's nothing left there. Say, hey, we're going to choose daily to work things out. We're going to put these things into practice, and we're going to forgive often and forgive regularly to each other. Amen? Remember, the best marriages are not the ones that are conflict-free. They're the ones who work through the conflict. That's what strengthens your marriage. All right, well, let's stand together at both campuses. And I'm going to invite Tandra, my wife, to join me, as I have every week. And if you're with your spouse at both campuses, I'm going to invite you to put your arm around them or take them by the hand. We want to focus on unity here. And today, listen, I hope that I'm just giving you some very practical tools because storms are going to come. You're going to disagree. No matter how old you are, no matter how long you've been married, that still happens. But we need to put tools in place so when it comes up, we're already ready. And so these will be available online later on our website, and you can take those and you can get with your spouse and you can work that out. But I want to encourage you to put those things into practice. And today, if you have been hurt by your relationship, if there have been words that were spoken that were damaging, or you feel like you just fight all the time, today you can start fresh and new and forgive each other and move forward with it. God is in the business of healing relationships and restoring relationships. That's what he came to earth to do. And so today he can do that in you. Let's pray together at both campuses. God, we thank you for your word, Lord. I thank you, God, for the institution of marriage that you've given us, God. And I thank you, Lord, for the picture of that in our relationship with you, God. And I pray today, Lord, for every marriage here to be strengthened, God. For every marriage here, God, to be brought closer together in unity, God, as we learn to work through our issues, God, as we learn to come to healthy resolve in our disagreements, God. And I pray for those marriages today, right now, Lord, or any relationship where there has been pain, where there has been wounds that have been spoken because of words, God, or there's bitterness or unforgiveness, Lord. I ask that you would humble both people in the relationship today, God, that they would choose the humble route and choose to forgive, God. And I pray healing and restoration and strength into their marriages, God. Let what you brought together, no man separate, God. We ask for that unity to be in every marriage at the sound of my voice. And I thank you for your restoration, God. And Lord, I pray for those today, God, who don't have a right relationship with you, that they have not made you the priority relationship in their life. And because of that, many other relationships are failing. Lord, I pray today, God, that you would draw them to you, that they would receive your forgiveness, God, and that they would understand that you have to be first in their life, God, and they can make that decision today. God, I pray that you would draw their hearts to you, Lord, and that they would put you first, and out of that right relationship, that every other relationship would flow, God. So I pray for that today. We give you all of the praise and the glory and the honor for the work you're doing in our lives and the work you're doing in every relationship at the sound of my voice. We give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I'm going to invite the prayer team to come here. And listen, if you need prayer for anything, we are here to pray for you, not just about marriage, but if you've been having issues in your marriage and you want someone to agree with you, we want to pray with you. If you have financial issues or you need healing or you've got a family member who needs healing, let us join with you and agree with you. Or maybe you're here today and you're saying, I need to be that person that comes back to Jesus and makes him my first priority. Let us pray with you and agree with you and get some tools in your hand to help you with that. But you are going to be dismissed, but I want you to know how much we love you. We are praying for you. We're praying for your marriages, your finances, every area of your life. We love you so much. God bless you guys. You are dismissed. Have a great week. We will see you next week.